Greetings and welcome to Choose Wisely. I'm your host, Armin Gabrielli. Today's podcast continues part 3 of Becoming a Better Parent. Today's discussion is going to be shorter than the first two. And I want to focus on one thing in particular during this discussion. The first part 1, we talked mainly about ego parenting, what it looks like, how it affects our parenting, and so forth. In part 2, we focused on parenting where the child is. And there's a lot said there. That's the longest of all podcasts I've ever done. I invite you to watch the two of them, hoping that you will receive a lot of good information that can help you be the best parent you can be. Now, though part 2, and I do believe everything I said in it, talks about parenting where the child is, that does not ignore, nor does it prevent you from also parenting from where you are, because you are going to parent according to you. Although we need to parent where the children are, the dichotomy of this dynamic is that we also parent where we are. Now, there's two places where you are. You parent according to your trauma and or your healing. You are your trauma and or your healing. You also parent according to what you know. You can only do what you know. You can't do what you don't know. So today we're going to focus on the part of you that is your trauma and or your healing. I discovered a few things. Well, a few things motivated me to become a better parent. I shared some of that with you. And in my, I guess you could say, my discovery, my continued learning, I realized three very important things that really help strengthen my motivation to be a better parent, and also really helped me in my battle against my ego, because I had a very big ego, and boy, was that a battle, and it still is. But either way, the three things that I learned, very important things that I learned, is that although we may age chronologically, we do not grow emotionally, mentally, or spiritually past our trauma. Even though we age, we do not grow past our trauma. Also, I learned something I feel is very important, is that we are always trying to fulfill that unmet childhood need. That's something that stays with us. It doesn't go away. We are always trying to fill that unmet childhood need. And here's the third thing I learned that really was the kicker to push me to be better. And that is, whatever childhood fractures I have, it plays out in my parenting. Whatever childhood fractures I have, it plays out in my parenting, one way or the other. Now, I imagine that you all are aware that, yes, of course, childhood hurts, traumas, or any kind, childhood, adult, it doesn't matter. It affects our relationships. It affects how we are at work. It affects us socially. It affects us, in many ways. My focus here is how it affects us as parents. And so understanding that, then if I'm going to heal, I need to go back to my first trauma. In part 2, I talked about trying to really identify what trauma we've experienced. So many things have been normalized by us individually to cope, to survive, and many things have been normalized by society. But we have to search and seek, what is it that may have been a trauma to us, that was a trauma to us, how early, how young, how that has affected us, and how that shows up in our current life, especially as a parent. Also, what we must do is we must deep dive to see what our yearnings are. What is it that we are looking for? What void do we have that we keep trying to fill? Because there is usually something. As long as you've experienced some kind of trauma, and trauma isn't always something that happened to you. Trauma could be something that you witnessed, or trauma could be something that you did not get. That's why I like to use the words trauma and or fractures. Trauma usually is a significant impact, whether something directly to you or something you witness, or it is a significant deficit that you did not experience, you did not get as a child. And when that is the case, then we usually are looking to either one or two things, either to overprotect ourselves to never experience that trauma again, or we are seeking to fill that void, that emptiness that is ever so present in our lives. A lot of these things are suppressed. They're buried deep down for the sake of survival, for the sake of being able to move forward, because we were taught to do that. But we now have to uncover. We have to bring to surface that which is within us. I mentioned in one of my actually, I think it was my first podcast in this series of Choose Wisely, that watching a show, something came up that I didn't realize I never dealt with. And that was pain that I had as a child growing up. I mentioned how when it did come up, how for about 10 minutes I was just sobbing. I couldn't stop. My wife couldn't stop me. I mentioned this as an example of things that can be buried deep, and it takes a while to unroot these things. Why does it take a while? One, because they're buried so far, we don't even know what they look like, what they feel like. We don't have a clue as to what they are. A lot of these things are buried to protect ourselves, to protect others, to protect loved ones. That may sound kind of strange, but it is something we do when we want to protect any form of protection with ourselves or others. We bury these things because we believe what we don't know, what we're not aware of, won't affect or hurt us, but that's not true. Whether we're aware of a thing or not, trauma does affect us. And if we're going to heal from trauma, if we're going to change our behavior, if we're going to change how we show up, we have to work through that trauma. We cannot continue to ignore the trauma. So I urge you to do the deep dive, to look for what it may be, to look to see how you or what you are looking for, how you are in response to any and everything. Clues are everywhere. Keep looking. Ask even if you have individuals that you can confide in, that you can trust. Ask and see what they say, and keep asking the question why. Why usually brings you to the core of what's going on. But you have to continue to ask why. You have to continue to ask why. You have to continue to ask why. There's a young lady who is dear to my heart. She's like my adopted daughter. And one day we were in class. She was actually a student of mine who I've adopted. I love her dearly. Her children, her twins, are my godchildren. And one day in class, she was telling me of a story, what occurred over the previous weekend of that class, and how she got into a little scuffle. And I asked her what happened. She told me what happened. I asked her why did she get upset, and she kept telling me why. And at first, all the answers were in reference to what whomever was saying or what they were doing. And I kept asking her, well, why did that upset you? Well, why did you feel that way? Well, why did you? And eventually she said, it's probably because I'm angry at my father. And I just took all my anger out at this individual. And when she said that, it was like a big release. And she started to cry. And it was necessary for her to get to, because once she was able to say that, to get to that, to let that out, that's when her healing journey began, and she continued. I give her so much credit. She's a wonderful, wonderful parent of the twins. I remember her saying before she even got into a relationship that she realized that she has to heal from that anger towards her father in order for her to have a healthy relationship. That was such a wonderful thing, but that was only possible because she got to the root of what was troubling her, what the trauma that she had. And she also identified that for her to be the best parent that she can be, she had to deal with all of that. And I commend her every day because she truly is wonderful. The kind of parenting that she is, what she does just amazes me. But she has said it, and I understand it, that she wouldn't have been that good. She would not be as good as she is if she didn't deal with that kind of trauma, with that trauma. So that's just an example of why you have to keep asking the question, why, of what you need to do, whatever it is. I used to hide from my children any feeling of inadequacy. One of my biggest traumas was feeling inadequate, feeling I'm not enough. And so I was always trying to show that I can handle everything. I was trying to show that I had no weaknesses. And I did this for years. Um, my kids would always believe that I can handle anything because that they thought that I never got upset, that I never wavered. My son used to ask me, my middle son used to ask me, how is it that I'm able to go to work and seemingly be okay even though I didn't sleep? They always saw me smiling and never upset. And I didn't realize how it was affecting them. How it was affecting them is that they were trying to do the same. And when they struggled with their own becoming who they were as young adults, as adolescents, they felt that they were inadequate because they had their own feelings, their own scares, their own concerns, and they thought something was wrong with them because look at my father. My father is perfect. He's great. He doesn't have any of these things. So something must be wrong with me. And it was my therapist that told me I need to share my weaknesses with my kids, that makes a big difference because I'm not being honest with them. I'm not preparing them for life. I'm not sharing with them, helping them prepare for all the challenges that they're going to have in life. I'm giving them a false set of how a man is supposed to be. And so finally, one day, when my son was asking me for my opinion about handling something, I shared with him how I used to feel and what I used to do. And after a while, I realized that he was silent, just listening intently. And then he got emotional. And afterwards, I asked him what happened. And he said for the first time, he felt like he was okay. He always thought something was wrong with him because of how he felt. And he always felt something was wrong with him because he thought he had to be like me, where it seemed like nothing ever bothered me. But to hear that I struggled, that I had challenges, that I felt inadequate, it made him feel like he was normal, like nothing was wrong with him. And that surprised me because I did not think that was going to be his response. I was more concerned about looking great and trying to appear adequate and okay because of how I always felt inadequate as a child, younger, young adult. And that taught me that one, I need to address anything inside of me that I had not yet addressed as an adult, and then be real about it, and then have discussions with my kids, be transparent appropriately according to the age where they are in developing. And in doing that and being honest with myself and addressing these things, then it also allows me to help them address some of the same things and experiences that they were having. I wasn't being as good a parent as I thought I was. I wasn't really preparing my children the way I thought I should. I wasn't showing them what life really is. To my sons, I wasn't showing them that it's okay to feel weak, to have hurts, that it's okay to not know everything, that it's actually going to be the case because we're never going to know anything. And even with my daughter's concerned, it helped shape the type of person that she was seeking in a boyfriend and someone who knows how to get in touch with their emotional side, to know how to express themselves. I never knew how to express myself. I didn't. I kept my feelings to me. And that wasn't a healthy thing because I was teaching my children to keep their feelings to them. And they do that. My daughter, oh my gosh, she holds it in. Geez, the thing is, I can tell because I know what it looks like when you hold your feelings in and when you're not honest about how you're really feeling. And I can see how that plays out in them. And I can see the challenges that they have based on how I had been. Now, had I dealt with my weaknesses, had I dealt with my traumas, had I did more healing when I was younger, when they were younger, then I'd be able to show up differently. I'd be able to help them manage their feelings, their emotions, how to deal with the different things that they were dealing with as they were growing up. Because kids, they deal with stuff. They deal with a lot of stuff. They're trying to become who they are. They have no clue and they're trying to figure it out. And if we're not real with ourselves, then we can't teach them to be real with themselves. If we do not accept ourselves, if we do not accept who we are, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the faults, the weaknesses, if we do not accept that and learn how to deal with these things in a healthy manner, if we don't accept all of us, nobody else will, but more importantly, our kids won't learn to accept themselves. They will mimic our behavior because they do. They always do. No matter what we say, they mimic what we do. They will mimic our behavior. They will mimic not accepting themselves. They will mimic not showing up as their best. They will mimic trying to hide flaws. Excuse me, trying to compensate or overcompensate. They will mimic not dealing with whatever they're trying to deal with. As I began to heal and deal with a lot of the things and accept me more, uh, it allowed them to do the same. I was able to articulate it. I was able to tell them what to do, how to be, to accept themselves, and to just work through it and to dig deep as into why they feel any feeling that they feel, no matter what. My daughter even laughs at me sometimes because when she comes to me with anything, I'm so real with her because I'm so real with myself that sometimes the truth can be quite harsh, but she loves it because it keeps her real, it keeps her true. And that's all what we want. We want real, we want authenticity. We want to be safe while being vulnerable, and we want to be transparent. But we can't be that if we're not real with ourselves. And being real with ourselves means looking at and dealing with all and everything within inside of us, trying to heal from whatever traumas that we've experienced. And while there are some traumas we may never fully heal from, how to manage being healthy, showing up healthy, while still carrying the scars of certain traumas or the ills of certain traumas. Because there are some traumas that will never be, that one can never heal from. And we just have to manage. Just like there's some illnesses that exist that there are no cures for, it's only management. But what we have to learn to do is to manage. And when we manage, then we can have a very good, productive, happy, joyful life. And as parents, it allows us to give our kids the best possible of us so that they can be their best possible selves sooner, if that makes any sense to any of you. And I hope it does. So think about it. What was your earliest trauma? What was it? Think about that. And it's going to take time. Think, think, think. What are you trying to fulfill? What childhood need are you trying to fulfill? Think about it. What do you seek? What is the greatest desire? What kind of attention do you seek? What are you looking for? And also, what fractures may you have? We do have fractures. Again, not all trauma is an event, something that occurred. A lot of times it's a deficit, something we did not get. What did you not get as a child? Did you not get the love that we were supposed to, the attention that we were supposed to? Do you have a father fracture? Do you have a mother fracture? You could have a present mother, but was she present emotionally? Was she present mentally? Was she there spiritually? Did you receive any form of spiritual nurturing growing up? What is it that you're missing? If you did not have any parent in your life growing up, that is a fracture. We don't even have to ask if you have a fracture. That is a fracture. But what you have to do is to figure out how that affected you. Sometimes we may not have a biological parent, but we have a substitute in place. It's a worthy, significant substitute, and that's fine. But you need to be honest. You need to be honest. What is it that was your first trauma, and what is it that you did not get? And then the last question, look at how you are with your children. There are clues there. How are you as a parent? There are clues. I'm going to end this podcast at this time. The next and final part, I'm going to talk about do's of parenting. We talked a lot about what we shouldn't do, how things affect us as parents negatively. We talked about healing, but I want to end off this series with a lot of do's. I wish I had a list of do's. While people keep saying, oh, there's no book on parenting, there's no book on parenting. I disagree. I said at the beginning of this series, the book for me is the Bible, but of course, it's not laid out in plain English. And while there may not be really a truly handwritten book, as people say, although there are, when we have a set of healthy generations, of healthy parents, our parents become our guide to help us parent. That's why in many cultures and societies, grandparents live with the family because the parents themselves may not know enough, but grandparents usually have enough wisdom and experience to be able to help the parent better. So I say this to you because I believe I've learned a lot and I want to share a lot of the do's. Some of them I always did, some of them I never did, and some of them I did but could do better. And I want to share with you the list of do's in terms of what we can do to be better parents. So until then, I thank you for watching this podcast. I hope that you have come away with some significant help and information. And I hope I'm encouraging you to choose to be a better parent. Until the next podcast, have a great day.